Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 487. The Growing Tarot Club. The moment he was being stared at, Emlyn was momentarily at a loss, vaguely aware that he had asked something he shouldn't have. Why are you looking at me like that? Can I have a sanguine friend? Should I try to explain? No, what's wrong with being a sanguine? I'm a sanguine. There's wrong with admitting that. Us sanguine have a long history, long lives, and rich heritage. It's a lofty race. None of you are especially amazing either. What was just traded was only a sequence 6 item at best. After a few thoughts, Emlyn White raised his chin and proudly added, "Yes, I am a pure sanguine." No one asked him if he was. Mr. Moon is lacking some self-confidence, which resulted in him reacting a little excessively. Audrey read Emlyn's performance. He's really a sanguine. Furs asked out of curiosity. Mr. Moon, do you sanguine mimic humans and give aristocratic titles like Duke, Viscount, Earl, and Baron to label different powerhouses of different standing? No, it's you humans who mimicked us sanguine. Emlyn sat up straight. Long before the Cataclysm, long before the Second Epoch, our sanguine already had these aristocratic titles. Those who have yet to fully control their strength are underage sanguine, and as for me, I'm considered an adult. Going one step further, one will gain the title of Baron and the progression leads all the way to Duke. Above Duke would be positions such as Queen and Prince. Back then, you humans were still under the rule of the giant king's court, so it's impossible for you to invent aristocratic titles. The moment his voice fell, the nearby Derek blurted out, "There are no such records in the history of our City of Silver." The categorization of the sanguine was determined by the appearance of the blasphemy slate. Prior to that, it was very vague and ambiguous. There were only titles such as the different family clans' head or leaders of a territory. Standing atop all is the ancestor, Lilith. After that, it strictly followed the potion system, named after the different sequence names. Emlyn replied scornfully, "The history of our sanguine was written with our long lives. It's not something that can be overturned by the random records of some small, ordinary City of Silver." Wait, they keep mentioning the City of Silver. Where exactly is it? Why haven't I heard of it? After the retort, Emlyn realized that he had apparently overlooked something important. Our City of Silver doesn't make up history. Our records come from ancient books that can be verified or from the ruins of other cities. Derek emphasized, somewhat aggrieved. If no one stops them, then I think they can argue about this matter until the end of the gathering. Although Little Sun is honest, sincere, and reserved, he has a very stubborn and persistent personality. On the other hand, Mr. Moon seems to care especially about the history of the sanguine. Audrey did her daily observations as a telepathist with piqued interest. At this moment, Alger interrupted the discussion between the sun and the moon. "I know how to raise the strength of a sanguine." Emlyn's attention was diverted. Mr. Hangman, what payment do you need? I can use some of the lost history our sanguine has in exchange." Alger revealed a smile. "No, we're all members of the Tarot Club. This kind of information exchange is free of charge. Mr. Hangman sure is a generous, noble man." Emlyn inwardly made a preliminary assessment. "Thank you for your goodwill." After thinking for 2 seconds, Alger said, "The sanguine can also consume potions to advance, but it has been in correspondence, the correct type. The various churches have done a certain amount of experimentation, and the results have proven that this method is feasible. However, I am unable to find out the exact details. But the main ingredient for those potions are from my kinsman." Emlyn denied such a method. The hangman laughed and said, "Never deal with absolutes. For example, I have a clue about the characteristics left behind by a sanguine baron. He died in a sudden conflict, and didn't have time to find his successor. As for you, you can use the potion method to receive this inheritance, and prevent the power of the sanguine from being lost." This item was owned by a great pirate that Alger knew. As he didn't know what sequence the potion corresponded to, he hadn't been able to sell it. Even his newly established artisan source wasn't that interested either. Use potions to inherit an inheritance to prevent the sanguine's powers from being lost. Emlyn suddenly felt that Mr. Hangman was very reasonable. Hence, he asked, "What's the price?" Alger chuckled and said, "Between 4,000 and 5,000 pounds. I won't know for sure until I find the owner of it." He had never communicated with the great pirate before, but he believed that as long as the price wasn't outrageous, the pirate would accept it. To a pirate, selling something would mean profit as it didn't take much capital. 5,000 pounds? Emlyn exclaimed. "With such a large sum of money, I can buy a few puppets that I've been eyeing for a long time, and I can even get some new clothes for all my dolls." Emlyn's first reaction was to give up such a transaction. However, he thought of the ancestors' favor in him, the glory of the sanguine, and the identity of him being the race's savior. He was momentarily put in a difficult position. Alger didn't rush him as he said indifferently with a smile, "I know this is a difficult decision. You can take your time and think about it." "All right." Emlyn breathed a sigh of relief. "Mr. Hangman is really—" Audrey muttered to herself inwardly, turned to the moon, and said to all the members, "Lady and gentlemen, do you have any news regarding the fruit of the tree of elders and the blood of a mirror dragon?" "Yes," Emlyn answered without hesitation. He had previously made a fortune due to a particular detective's purchase of Beyonder ingredients. Therefore, at every sanguine gathering, he would pay attention to such information. Without waiting for Miss Justice's exuberant pressing, he continued on. "The price of the fruit of the tree of elders is between 600 and 700 pounds, and the blood of a mirror dragon doesn't exceed 100 pounds. I don't remember the exact amount." He quoted her the original price and frankly added, "But you'll have to pay me an extra 50, no, 100 pounds. As you know, I'll have to take on a risk and waste my time." This was what Emlyn learned from Sherlock Moriarty. He felt that this was very good and reasonable, because a middleman needed to be paid. "Deal!" Audrey happily chose to accept as soon as he finished speaking. She knew such matters could still be negotiable, but she didn't think it was necessary. She was afraid that the deal was off if she angered the other party. "To me, the most important thing is to advance to sequence 7. Emperor Roselle once said that any problem that can be solved with money isn't a problem." Audrey's recently heavy mood improved. After the New Year ball, she had received control of her fortune worth 40,000 pounds. She just needed to hire some accountants and management staff sent by her father. At the same time, she received gifts of more than 20,000 pounds in jewelry, horses, hounds, paintings, etc. Most of them came from her mother, 2 elder brothers, and other members of the Hall family. As for the cash, she didn't have much. It was only 5,000 pounds. Her contribution to the Backlund's Great Haze had been turned into Earl Hall's political resources by her own request to be kept anonymous, so there was no reward. For this, the great aristocratic banker offered to pay for any expenses his little angel had in the field of mysticism. Of course, Audrey didn't dare reveal her intention to aim for sequence 7. She could still only use her pocket money and savings. "Well, I'll be able to pay off my debt to Glaint by this month. Next month, I can pay 2,000 pounds to Mr. Fool's Blessed. I won't be tight at all." Audrey thought in a good mood. Very rich. Emlyn almost failed to react before asking, puzzled, "How do we complete the deal?" Audrey explained with a faint smile. "By making a sacrifice to Mr. Fool." She was very proactive in obtaining the Fool's consent, conjuring the corresponding ritual requirements. When Emlyn received the 2 goatskin parchments, he stared at them in a daze. The way they traded was beyond his imagination. Only then did he deeply understand how the Tarot Club was different from a normal secret organization. Watching the transactions between the members, Klein was very pleased. This was because with the passage of time, the channels and resources that were open to the Tarot Club would continue to increase. Everyone's goals and items that they wanted would be much simpler to obtain than in the past. It would no longer be in a state of having no response when making requests. Miss Justice represents the psychology alchemists, the lone aristocrats, and the power of money. Mr. Hangman represents the Church of Storms and the resources at sea. Mr. Sun represents the forsaken land of God and the city of silver. Miss Magician represents the low and mid-sequence Beyonders and Backlund and the Abraham family. The Moon represents the Sanguine. All of them will perfect the Tarot Club's trading resources and news-gathering capabilities. They're all about to advance. While he was thinking, Klein controlled the world and said in a hoarse voice, I have a clue to a characteristic left behind by a psychiatrist. Miss Justice, would you have any need for it? Klein hadn't chosen to snatch Emlyn's business because he knew Miss Justice also reared a pet of the same pathway. He wasn't afraid that there wouldn't be any demand. Of course. Audrey hardly hesitated. Her idea was very simple. If met with an enemy attack, it might not be enough to just rely on herself to provide a surprise. Adding on Susie, who would be even more surprising, it would make things more assuring. This will take a certain amount of time, perhaps a month, or even 2 months, the world added in a low voice. No problem. Audrey was under no psychological pressure. She knew that Susie hadn't finished digesting the telepathist potion. Phew, as long as this deal is closed. I hope I can release the psychiatrist as soon as possible. Miss Justice didn't seem to ask about the price. To her, with the fool's supervision, the price wouldn't be too outrageous. She would accept it as long as it isn't too outrageous. Her finances have improved a lot recently. Klein made the world look at the hanged man and give a low chuckle. Are you interested in helping me sell an item? The price isn't less than £3,500. You'll be given a 15% commission fee. Pleasure to work with you. Alger first agreed to it before asking with interest. What is the item? He was rather curious about the world. He felt that the other party knew a lot and had no lack of good things. A characteristic left behind by a Beyonder, and is equal to a sequence 6. The main purpose is to allow a person to change their appearance and build. There's the addition of powers such as close combat and control over fire. Of course, the effects that can be produced will depend on the artisan's ideas and standard. The world chuckled. Changing appearance and build. I really want it. Audrey and Furs had the same idea at the same time. The only difference was that the latter was only entertaining the thought, but Audrey opened her mouth and asked with sparkling eyes, Mr. Hangman, can I pre-order the mystical item produced by the artisan using this characteristic? As long as the effect of changing one's appearance remains. Father will definitely agree to me buying a mystical item that has tolerable side effects. Audrey added, in an exceptionally relaxed manner, in her heart.